Why being right will cost you money. Imagine I told you that the very thing you've been taught your entire life, the desire to be right, is the exact reason you're struggling as a trader. Sounds crazy, right? In school, being right got you good grades. At work, being right got you promotions. In life, being right earned respect. But in trading, being right can cost you thousands of dollars. Today, we're going to talk about why the need to be right is one of the most expensive habits a trader can have, and why letting go of that need is one of the first steps toward consistent profitability. Real life scenario. The classroom. Think back to when you were a kid. Your teacher asks, "What's 7 times 8?" You raise your hand confidently and answer. If you're right, everyone praises you. If you're wrong, what happens? Maybe nobody says anything. Maybe classmates laugh. Maybe you feel embarrassed. Over time, we learn something powerful. Being right feels good. Being wrong feels bad. We carry that belief into adulthood. Connect to trading. The problem is that the market doesn't care about our feelings. The market doesn't reward us for being confident. It doesn't reward us for being smart. It simply does what it's going to do. Example. You spend an hour analyzing a chart. You find the perfect setup. You enter the trade. 5 minutes later, it stops you out. Immediately, your brain says, "No, that's impossible. My analysis was right." Notice what's happening. You're no longer reacting to the market. You're defending your ego. Key message. The moment a trade becomes about proving you're right, you've stopped trading and started protecting your identity. Real life scenario. The argument. Have you ever been in an argument with your spouse, friend, or coworker? At some point, the conversation stops being about solving the problem. Now it's about winning. You start collecting evidence. You interrupt. You defend. You refuse to back down. Why? Because being wrong feels painful. Connect to trading. Many traders do the exact same thing with a losing position. Instead of accepting the trade isn't working, they start arguing with the market. Example, the trader buys a stock at $100. The stop loss is supposed to be $95. Price falls to $95. Instead of exiting, the trader says it's just a pullback. Price falls to $90. The market makers are hunting stops. Price falls to $85. I'll wait for a bounce. What's happening? The trader isn't managing risk anymore. They're defending their original opinion. Key message. The market doesn't care how much evidence you have. The market doesn't care how strongly you believe. Price is the final authority. Real life scenario. Wrong turn while driving. Imagine you're driving somewhere you've never been before. Your GPS tells you to turn around, but you're convinced you know the way. So you keep driving. 5 minutes later, you're lost. 10 minutes later, you're even farther away. Eventually, you realize the GPS was right. The longer you refuse to admit you were wrong, the more time and fuel you wasted. Connect to trading. Trading works exactly the same way. The market gives feedback. The stop loss is your GPS. It tells you this idea isn't working. But many traders ignore it because admitting they're wrong feels uncomfortable. Example, a trader risks $100 on a trade. Instead of accepting the $100 loss, they move the stop. Now they're down $300, then $500, then $1,000. Not because they were wrong, because they refused to admit they were wrong. Key message. Small losses don't destroy trading accounts. Unaccepted losses do. Real life scenario. Casino owners. Let's imagine you own a casino. Someone walks in and plays blackjack. Do you know if they'll win? No. Do you care? Not really. Why? Because you're focused on thousands of hands, not one hand. Connect to trading. Professional traders think the same way. They don't judge themselves based on one trade. They judge themselves based on whether they followed their process. Example, Trader A loses 3 trades. Trader A says, my strategy doesn't work. Trader B loses 3 trades. Trader B says, those losses are part of my edge. Same outcome, different mindset. Key message, professionals don't need every trade to validate them. They let probabilities do the work. Point 5, the shift that changes everything, 1230 to 1430. Real life scenario, coin flips. Imagine I hand you a coin. If it lands heads, you win $10. If it lands tails, you lose $5. Would you take that bet? Most people would. Why? Because over time, the odds are in your favor. Have you ever stayed in a losing trade longer than you should have because you were convinced the market would come back and prove you right? Let me know in the comments.